following program contains inconvenient truth and controversial topics that may be offensive to some audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Radio from the heart of America now.
Welcome back. We're at the top of the second hour of Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio.
All right, welcome back, America. Welcome back, Gulf Coast. Welcome back, world. And as Joe Horn just told you, we are at the top of the second hour. A very special second hour today because we have Mike Zullo in the house with us for this whole second hour. And we're going to unpack this release of the Mueller report, Barr's press conference, Attorney General Barr's press conference on the Mueller report, things that have been disclosed that Mike Zullo, Sheriff Arpaio, have known for years. I'm including myself in that only because they brought me into their confidence, deputized me as a special deputy, and I've been used as a mouthpiece and a radio, a media outlet for them to get a lot of information out over the years. So when I say we, that's all I mean. I was not a criminal investigator in this case, but Mike Zullo was. And so now I've brought Mike Zullo on because we're going to unpack the things that now the world knows that Mike Zullo and Sheriff Arpaio has been knowing concerning a lot of the deep state and the entanglements and the incestuous relationships that have been going on for years. And it all ties to the birth certificate, you're going to find out. Plus, we're going to give you some information that will help you make sense of all of this. And plus, I will give you some opinions based upon things that I know about where all this birth certificate stuff may be headed because of this. So, first of all, let me welcome Mike Zullo and say thank you so much for being on the show today.
Carl, happy Good Friday to you, brother.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it so much. And I'm looking, and you heard the first segment. I'm looking forward to Resurrection Sunday with all of my heart. Yeah, I really am. And listen, here's the deal, Mike. I don't even know where to begin. We've got a whole hour, and it'll go by quickly, so I want to get right to some points here. But, man, 2 years, over 2 years, of this deep state attempt at a coup using the Mueller investigation. Now, you and I knew years ago there was a coup going on. I'll never forget, Mike, when you called me up one day on my cell phone and we weren't on the air or anything, and you just said, "Oh, my God, Carl, we're under a coup." Because after you had put 2 + 2 + 2 together for several years, you realized fake news, deep state, tied to the White House, tied to the CIA, all with the attempt to literally take over this nation, to install people like Obama forever or Hillary Clinton behind him forever, to cover up the crime of the ages, the fake birth certificate, and to continue to take this nation over under socialist foundations and communist foundations. I'll never forget the day you called me and said, here's what's really happening. Go ahead, Mike.
Carl, I do. I remember that. And I remember when I called you, I was a little bit on the panic side because it really just started to gel for me. And, if you go back and if you remember on actually some recent shows, but a couple of years back, I had told you and your audience that I had received information firsthand from an individual that was filling in with Rush Limbaugh's show. And it was right after we did our first or second press conference. I can't remember which one it is. But we did one of the early press conferences, and they wanted to pick up on that, and they wanted to discuss that on the air. And basically the producer of that show came to that fill-in guest and told him in no way was he going to do that. Mm-hmm. And he had pushed back because he had his whole afternoon set up for that and didn't know what he was going to do next. And I guess he got into a little heated exchange, and the producer said, if you do anything on that birth certificate, you will never work in this industry again. Mm-hmm. And he relayed this to me firsthand, and he's going to remain anonymous because I gave him my word he would.
Yeah, and that was the Rush Limbaugh show. Rush was out, correct, and there was a guest host that correct was going to unpack this whole birth certificate thing based upon your criminal investigation, and he was summarily shut down.
Correct. We were supposed to be on Sean Hannity's radio show right after the birth certificate announcement the following day. They right at the press conference, the following day, they killed it. We weren't going on. Yep. We were supposed to be on Lawrence O'Donnell's show.
Mm-hmm.
That afternoon, right after the press conference, I believe it was the first one. And once they found out or watched and realized where we were going, they killed it. And what I came to understand was, and I used to say on your show, there's a media blackout.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to cover this. Nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah. They were getting threats they were getting threats and orders from higher up. Go ahead.
Well, as fate would have it, in one of the books written about the Obama presidency, I believe it's Dan Pfeiffer wrote a book, and he actually goes into a chapter on the birth certificate, which is all contrived nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
He's just laying it, again, another narrative. But he actually boasts of the media blackout surrounding the issue.
Yeah.
And what does that tell you? It was Fox News. It was MSNBC. It was everything across the gambit that an order had to come down somewhere.
Yeah.
Collusion with media executives not to talk about the birth certificate.
And they never have. Since then. Never have. None of them.
No. But that's bone-chilling because we've also come to learn and understand from media executives that there actually are CIA employees embedded in media newsrooms.
Mm-hmm.
They're not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
The CIA's
No
charter
doubt.
is not to work inside the confines of the United States of America. They're supposed to work outside and abroad.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's all coming out. And you're seeing this whole deep state thing. You are seeing this whole thing with Mueller and his report. I mean, just let me run this by you. 17 attorneys, Democrat rabid attorneys, looking to hang the president. 17 attorneys. 675 days until he turned in that report. 34 indictments of people with a handful of Americans. Everybody else is Russian this or Russian that. People that will never see the inside of a courtroom. They could be trumped up charges. Nobody's ever going to know the difference. All right? They had 40 FBI agents assigned to this. They issued 2,800 subpoenas, 500 search warrants, 23 orders of communication, 230 orders, of communication records, 50 authorized orders of pen registers. Those are tools that let the government know when someone is calling and communicating to and from, but it doesn't tell you who, and I'll explain why that's so dangerous right here with what we know what they're capable of doing. 13 evidence requests for foreign governments, 500 witnesses, and $25 million spent that we know of as far as last February is concerned. You've got all of that, and there is no evidence of collusion. You know what that means? They could not get anybody to corroborate that.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Now they had a problem, and they had to throw red meat to the Democrats to give them a lifeline to keep this thing going because they're all trying to cover up their own sins, and they come up with this obstruction narrative.
Yeah.
It's a narrative, and it's a narrative that can't even be corroborated itself because after that effort, they could not determine if the president did or did not commit a criminal act.
Right. And think of everybody.
And if you can't determine it, it didn't happen.
Yeah. And think of everybody they were trying to flip and turn, and apparently they couldn't because either there was nothing there or even if there was something that even smelled like it, apparently there was nothing that Mueller could hang his hat on. Now I want to juxtapose that with what's getting ready to come down the pike when the real criminals are investigated, and that's already happening. The DOJ is already doing it. Congress has already begun it. The Democrats and Clinton and Comey and on and on and on. And these guys will sing like birds. They know that the evidence is there. They know that there was real collusion among them. They know it goes all the way to Obama. It goes all the way to Loretta Lynch. It goes all the way to James Comey. It goes all the way to John Brennan. They know it. People are going to start flipping left and right. These next couple of years, Mike, are going to be like a roller coaster ride, I think. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you. And, Carl, it's going to take one guy.
Just one.
One guy or gal to flip.
Yep.
One guy turns, it's going to topple like dominoes.
Yep.
Because everybody's going to be out to save themselves.
Yep.
And if you want to talk about obstruction of justice, my God, the poster child for that is Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
And her email server fiasco.
And James Comey
That's
basically
absolute obstruction.
Yeah, James Comey basically told the world. Mike, you remember the night he got up and gave that press conference to the world? When he first started talking, my wife and I were sitting there on the couch watching it. I was anxious to see what he was going to say about this investigation. I turned to my wife and said, "Oh my gosh, they're ready to indict her." I mean, when you heard Comey talking, we knew. I mean, Comey was telling us she has committed criminal acts. Then he looked into the camera basically and wink, wink. But however, in her case, we're not going to do it. But if you do it, we're coming after you. But, you know, she didn't mean it. She didn't know what she was doing. Wink, wink. Okay, this is all over. Everybody go home. Nothing to see. That's how arrogant that administration was, Mike. And they thought Hillary was coming in behind them and it would all be covered up. But now here sits Donald Trump. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, and Carl, I to the life of me, I don't understand that whole James Comey thing because that was just mind-blowing. I was actually watching it with my wife, and I turned to her and I said, "Oh, my God, he's going to do it."
Yeah, me too.
And then, you know, he does an about-face. But I want you to remember something. This is what's really important. What did he say the reason was they weren't going to do anything to Hillary Clinton? Well, she didn't have any intent.
Yeah, she didn't intend it. She didn't mean to do that.
And that's not an element for what they were looking to charge her with. Intent doesn't matter.
Right. Right. No, it doesn't.
There was no intent. Well, let's bring that to Donald Trump and this obstruction fiasco they have going on. You know, there is an element here that needs to be proven, and it's called mens rea. It's the criminal mind. It's the intent of the individual.
Right.
You can't have obstruction without a criminal intent. You can't sit there and say to my White House counsel, "I want to fire so-and-so." Just because I'm verbalizing that doesn't mean I have intent.
Right.
But what they're doing here is they are taking however many interviews they conducted, and they are cherry-picking what people have said, that they don't have enough corroborating evidence to come to a conclusion, and painting him guilty anyway.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And that's how they're trying to hang him a second time.
That is. Mike, listen, we've got more time. We've got plenty of time. We've got a whole lot more to unpack. We've got to take this quick break. But I'm going to say, listen, I knew about the Rush Limbaugh, the Sean Hannity, the Lawrence O'Donnell show, and other people that you and I have talked about. But I don't think you've ever called those names over the air before today. I could be mistaken. But as you were doing it, I was saying, oh, well, he's letting some more information out.
Carl, I mean, this is game time now.
Yeah, I agree.
This is game time.
Yeah.
They're going to rip this country apart if they keep on going the way they're going.
I know. I agree with you. We'll talk about that when we come back. Folks, you can see how exciting this show is going to be. So don't go anywhere. Give us 2 minutes. We'll be right back. Freedom Friday, Carl Gallups.
An unbearable insult to the herd mentality. Welcome back to Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio.
All right, welcome back, folks. Mike Zullo, the lead investigator of the Obama fraud case under the fourth largest sheriff's office in the nation, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office under Sheriff Joe Arpaio when he was in office, and he was the lead investigator. He's on with us live. So, Mike, listen, there's so much to talk about, so much to unpack. You've already revealed some things that you've never revealed before. You're always good to do that on this show every now and then, whether I know you're going to do it or not. And and even offline when I said, you know, you've never laid those names. Those are big names. Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Lawrence O'Donnell show, you know, people that were shut down right when they were calling you saying, hey, come on the show. We got to talk about this. And the next thing you know, boom, shut down, cut off. And there are others, because I remember you telling me some of these big shows you were getting ready to go on. And it's still happening with talking heads. And you and I were talking offline, you know. I mean, these kinds of things just happened with Judge Jeanine on Fox News. You know, I mean, the deep state is still there calling the shots on what we're allowed to talk about and what we're not, regardless if it's right in front of our eyes or not, like the birth certificate investigation. Now, having said that, I want to set you up with this, Mike, something else that you uncovered in this investigation through a CIA whistleblower and then your long time investigation to make sure he was telling you the truth and you discovered it was true and you have the forensics to prove it. and you uncovered it on Freedom Friday years ago, but now, even though the mainstream they haven't really made the same connection, they're still talking about it and they don't even know it. Now, that all sounds like coded language, folks, but now I'm going to unpack it. So, Mike Zullo, on this website, left-leaning all the way, it's called talkingpointsmemo.com. Just right after Mueller report was released, here's the title of the article. Here are the biggest bombshells from the redacted Mueller report. Now, that was just yesterday, okay? Now, Mike, when you hear bombshells, you would think that they would say, okay, Trump, nothing there. No collusion. No, they went on down like, well, Trump was extremely upset when he learned of Mueller's appointment. How's that a bombshell, Mike? Of course he was. I mean, everybody knows that. But here's the thing. It goes down to point number 4. Russia hacked and extracted voter data from Illinois State Board of Elections and Florida county government and targeted private companies that help run elections. Russia hacked state governments to change the elections. Now, Mike, that's what this left-wing side is saying. But what was it you found out during the investigation and told this nation years ago, but nobody wanted to listen to us because we were just a bunch of conspiracy theorists?
Well, I'll tell you right now, it wasn't Russia.
No, it wasn't.
The information that we learned was that our CIA informant, who was the individual who built the software that did the breaching of computer systems across the globe and would harvest data surreptitiously and defeated firewalls and all kinds of other things. The only time in his career he was asked by, I believe it was the CIA, to breach the Florida voter rolls and download the entire database, which he did.
During an Obama, it was during an Obama election, wasn't it? Wasn't it his second?
Yeah, if you go back, if you remember, Allen West lost his district by like 120%.
Yeah.
It's just, the percentage is too high for the amount of people in the district.
Right.
And he was crying foul about that around that time.
Right.
And what was strange to him, it wasn't the first time he was asked to download things. They came back to him. And the only occurrence in his time there that he was asked to upload the contents of a drive back into the Florida voter rolls.
Mm-hmm. That was your
and
CIA
that was
informant.
done by him.
Mm-hmm. The informant, the guy that built the equipment, the software,
yes.
Not a Russian, totally American, working for the CIA. He did it, and he told you, and he showed you, and proved that it was done, and told you
yes.
that it was that software was made such that it would appear the Russians were doing it, when all along it was the deep state of the United States.
They can make it appear it comes from anywhere in the globe.
Yep.
And make you believe, through your analysis, that it's a foreign entity. And I believe it was Bill Binney, who was, I think your audience is familiar with him. He's one of the NSA whistleblowers that built the software that actually grabs all the information. And they had a Fourth Amendment protection in it, and down the road that got wiped out, and they blew the whistle, and they destroyed these guys' lives. But he was an NSA employee building this for the government. And I verified that very claim with him. Mm-hmm. It was also Bill Binney that did some work when you talk about the stolen emails, that they're still trying to say Russia stole and hacked the Clinton emails, and WikiLeaks was part of that.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. Bill Binney did the work, and there's time allotted for transmission of digital content across miles. In other words, if you were going to breach from Italy to Hawaii, it's going to take so many milliseconds for that information to come back and forth. And what he has determined is the download speed did not come from anywhere like that. The download speed went from the computer system of the DNC to a thumb drive or a hard drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was nothing anywhere else.
Yeah.
Now, that's going to take the WikiLeaks thing off the table.
Yep.
Now, isn't it amazing how they're blowing up on Russia collusion, and now they decide it's time to get Assange.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just another cover.
Yes. And
everything I believe that they are doing here, Carl, is to cover
That's
their
right.
dirty deeds.
That's right. This bombshell revelation that Russians hacked the Florida and Illinois Board of Elections to swing elections. You and I've known for years that ain't Russia. But yet the Mueller report claims it's Russia, and Mueller knows it's not. So what are they doing? They're covering it up.
Correct.
They're covering their own dirty deeds. We're at the bottom of the hour, Mike. We've got another whole segment. So let's take this time out, folks. You can listen to the news. You can listen to our great sponsors. Mike Zullo is with us. He will be up for another whole segment. We've got more to talk about, more to uncover, more revelations to give you. And we're going to connect it to the birth certificate and where that might be going very soon as well. A lot is happening in the world. A lot is happening in the United States of America. And a lot of the deep, deep information you'll only hear here on Freedom Friday. I mean, think about what we've talked about. You have not, nor will you hear it on Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, any place else. You won't. But it's coming right out of the horse's mouth, the guy that's had his finger on this investigation for 5 years. We'll be back after this time out. Don't go anywhere.
And now, the Commander-in-Chief is back. Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio.
All right, Gulf Coast. All right, America. From sea to shining sea and all across the world, we're back. The Oval Office, Gulf Coast Talk Radio, Freedom Friday. Carl Gallups, Mallory Bardwell, my world-famous producer, in the house, sitting right beside me over here, pushing the buttons, turning the knobs, giving me the dirty looks when I mess up. Yep, that's her. And that's why this show sounds so great. She's right on top of it. In the meantime, Mike Zullo is in the house with me. He is my guest this afternoon, my guest host, my guest commentator. So, Mike Zullo, listen, bro, there's so much. I mean, off the air, I wish we could be airing the stuff you and I get to talk about off the air. But one of the things I want to ask you about, something we were talking about off air for just a few moments, going back to and Mike, you might remember dates and times better than I do, but I'm not putting you on the spot. You don't have to say, but I mean, it was James Baker's testimony. It was behind closed doors with the House Intelligence Committee. It was concerning Russian collusion and all of that. And in that, he brought up, or somebody brought it up, it was the struck page texts mentioned Dennis Montgomery's name. He was one of the whistleblowers. He was the CIA whistleblower, FBI CIA whistleblower that worked with you in explaining how this, the hammer, the software worked, and that he invented it, and he showed you a lot of things and gave you a lot of material, et cetera, et cetera. You and the sheriff were instrumental in getting him FBI, what's it called? Where you're not charged if you give information? Help me. The words escape from me.
Oh, the testimonial immunity?
Yes, immunity, of course. Yeah, but of course James Comey was in charge of the FBI then, and we didn't know. They buried it, but struck page, some of their text mentioned the Dennis Montgomery thing. And then James Baker was asked about it behind closed doors, and that has now come out. So talk about that. Just tell us about the fact that these deep state operatives, they know what the whistleblower did. They know what you know. This is why the media has been threatened not to talk to you. Go ahead.
Well, Carl, if you go back about probably 2 years now, I think I was on your show, and I actually divulged that Dennis Montgomery, who was the CIA informant, the individual that built that software that I described in the previous segment, that I had turned him over to Larry Klayman, and in an attempt to get him to turn evidence against factions of the government that were doing these things. Right. And we ended up taking him to a federal judge. I have gone through all that ad nauseum on your show.
Yes, you have. Larry Klayman, high-powered attorney.
Jim Jordan.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Jim Jordan, the House Judiciary Committee, is questioning James Baker, who was the attorney under Comey for the FBI. And I reported on your show that Klayman was successful in getting Montgomery to the FBI, and he turned over the same information and more that he had given us, including the birth certificate investigation material. He turned it all over to the FBI. He turned it over to James Baker. James Baker, under oath, is asked about any other kind of government surveillance. And what he says is, he says there was an attorney that brought some information to them. And they was subsequently asked, what kind of information, what does it have to do with? And his answer is, quote, well, it has to do with surveillance. It had to do with allegations about unlawful surveillance. But it was, I believe, it was different from the fact pattern we are talking about the last time here. And then it went back and someone on the committee asked, unlawful surveillance of whom? Of Americans, including government officials, Baker responded.
Yep.
Now, that is the same information that we disclosed that we were involved with on your radio show.
Yes. And
so
we
people think we're lying.
Yeah.
We're not lying. Montgomery's name is in the page-struck text messages.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are not lying about this.
And this is why I want
we were neck deep in this.
Yes, this is why I want our audience to understand that much of America, including part of our audience in years past, was absolutely gaslighted under the Obama administration. And so when here comes you, the chief investigator of this bona fide criminal investigation, and let's take your name out of it, pretend like it was another sheriff's office and another investigation, another investigator and another group that had come up with this information. But it was you, and you're coming on the radio telling the world what you found, what's happening, the whistleblower, the connection to the CIA, the connection to the government, the connection to the White House, the corruption of Congress, the corruption of the media, the collusion between the media and the White House. And you and I were called nut jobs, wing nuts, conspiracy theorists, and liars. And so now we're sitting here, so here comes James Baker in a closed-door meeting before the House Intelligence Committee, basically parroting back what you've been disclosing on Freedom Friday.
And, Carl, they are deathly afraid of that. That's why he glossed over it. He didn't want to have any more questions thrown at him regarding that information.
Yeah.
That information, coupled together with the birth certificate information, that would have stopped everything we are going through now. It never would have happened.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, as we reported on your show, was surveilled as early as 2001.
Yeah.
That's as far back as we were able to determine.
Yeah.
2001 they were doing this.
I know.
This is nothing new. Joe Arpaio, Sheriff Arpaio, his own sheriff's re-election campaign about, I want to say 8 or 9 years earlier than the time than present, was infiltrated surreptitioally by the FBI, and they got caught.
Yeah.
It's not the first time they do these things.
Yeah. No, I know. And Mike,
so anybody that thinks that this is a one-off, you're being lied to.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a one-off.
You're absolutely right. And Mike, I'm going to break this, and I know you'll remember this, and I'm going to be very coded in the way I say this, just to protect me, my family, and you and the information we know. But you remember when I called you sometime back, it's been probably a year and a half. It was during Obama was still in office, and so it's been over 2 years ago. But I had somebody out of the clear blue contact me through my website. Didn't talk to me, but talked to my people. I've got 3 or 4 handlers that handle my schedule and everything, and was promising me the world if I would come to this foreign country. You remember? And they were going to set me up in this huge ministry opportunity. Of course, that's right up next to my heart. Ministry opportunity, not hugeness, but the ministry. And they made all of these fantastical promises that got bigger and bigger and bigger. They almost overdid it. And then when I checked into it, I couldn't find anything that really, really was truthful about it. And it all got very dark and nefarious, but they kept begging me, come to this place, we will pick you up, we will. And then I did some research and found out the place they were bringing me is a beehive of CIA operative for the USA. And I gave you all the information I had. You remember this? And you said, Carl, do
Yes,
not
I do.
go. This was in the Obama administration. I'm convinced, I could be wrong, and maybe here I'm a conspiracy theorist with a tinfoil hat, but all of the facts, and you know all the deep facts, I can't reveal them over the radio program, but pointed to the fact they were trying to get me out of the country so that they could disappear me, so that this media outlet would disappear from you and Sheriff Arpaio. That's what I think was happening. This is how nasty and dirty this whole thing is, guys.
Well, Carl, there would have been a PP dossier written about you.
Yeah.
That's what they would have done.
Yeah, they would have
destroyed you that way. It's better.
Yeah.
And don't forget, a lot of this fight, I don't really want to go here on this show, but a lot of this fight is a battle of good and evil.
Yes.
You got to realize what this fight truly is.
Yeah. You can go there. I talk about it all the time. It's
deep. They're trying to take
deep.
this country down.
Yeah.
They're trying to destroy Christianity.
Yep.
They're trying to do it. And you know what? Right now, they're kind of succeeding.
Yeah.
Because they got this country ready to strike at each other's throats at any minute.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
It has to stop.
Go
Carl,
ahead.
Let me just one other thing for your audience.
Yes, please.
First of all, these people, when you hear the FBI, the government, this NSA, CIA did this, they like to talk in that big general term. The truth of the matter is there is always going to be a who. Who is the person that did it? Who is the person that collected it? Who is the person that dropped it off? Who is the person that ordered it? There's always going to be a who.
Yeah.
But with this whole government thing, it's always this big behemoth government, and you never find out who the who is.
Yeah, except
that has to change.
Yeah, I mean, who ordered the fake birth certificate? Who
Yes.
put it together? Who actually did it? Who went and got it? Who did they get it from? Who took it to the president? Who handled it? Who put it on the White House website? Okay, so you're right. Who? And it's so difficult to find. Now, you know a lot of these answers, but we can't say it over the radio. But here's the deal. Who ordered the fake dossier? The Clinton campaign. Who put it together? Steele.
Right.
Who was it delivered to? John McCain and others. What did they do? They went to a FISA court, FBI, DOJ under Obama. What did they do? They lied to the. See, there's a lot of stuff we know about that. And this is what President Trump is saying. We're getting ready to blow this up.
And a lot of things that President Trump is doing and saying is because he knows other things that he can't disclose to you, and he's taken actions, and they at times they look a little bizarre.
Yeah.
But if you see what happens as time progresses, then you go back and it makes sense.
Yeah.
This is why he was doing or saying what he was saying, because he couldn't tell you actually what it was. And here's what they are doing to the president now. He is a New Yorker. I was born in New York.
Uh-huh.
I was raised on the East Coast. If you don't understand how people over there speak and their hyperbole, you will be offended every minute of the day.
Yeah.
It's just a different way they communicate. And with him, if you watch him, especially at his rallies, he is a free, offhand thinker. He will be analyzing, formulating as he's speaking to you, bark out a direction. He doesn't mean to take the direction. What he's saying is, can I do this?
Mm-hmm.
And he was right to say, I want to fire Mueller.
Mm-hmm.
He's conflicted. He's 100% right. He is deeply conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
But he was told not to. He took no action. That's what aides are to a president.
Yes.
They are to offer guidance.
Yes.
And what these people want to do is crucify him for doing exactly what he's supposed to do. Run this by my people.
Yep. Yeah.
They just don't like the way he does it.
Yeah. Well, they're terrified of him because now he's the most powerful man that the planet has ever known, and he is in the White House, and he holds the keys to the foundational crime, the birth certificate, fake documentation of a fake guy running our military and our world. And they were hoping Hillary Clinton would come right behind him and clean it all up, and Donald Trump came in. We've got another segment to do, but we've got to take a time out, Mike. When we come back, I'm going to ask you about James Clapper and a new term he has invented. Okay. Well, folks, we'll be right back after this time out. Mike Zullo with us. Don't go anywhere. Give us 2 minutes.
Please remain seated until the ride comes to a complete stop. Welcome back to Freedom Friday with Carl Gallups, the Oval Office of Gulf Coast Talk Radio.
All right, let's go right back to Mike Zullo. Mike Zullo, so James Clapper has invented a new word that's just about to explode your head. Explain it to us.
It really did, Carl. You know, I am so tired of the left coming up with phrases and labels as if these things actually exist. And this one is classic. Clapper said on a radio or television interview that he believes the Mueller report demonstrates passive collusion from from President Trump, if not active collusion. Well, there's no such thing as passive collusion, and there's no such thing as active collusion. You can't have passive collusion. Collusion, by definition, is a secret agreement between two or more parties, basically to obtain an objective forbidden by law, typically by defrauding or gaining an unfair advantage. Right? That's collusion. Conspiracy, on the other hand, is completely different. This is why Mueller report never went to conspiracy, because you would have to have a group purposely formed for committing certain offenses,
right?
Unlawful criminal acts. You would literally have to go out there and round these people up and all conspire to do something.
Right.
Well, there's no such thing as passive collusion. So what does he do? He floats this idea as cover for all the nonsense that he is a known liar, lying to Congress about collecting data on American citizens when he knew damn well that they were all being spied upon.
Right.
He comes out with a term. Now we have passive collusion. What does that mean?
Yeah,
it means absolutely nothing.
Doesn't mean anything.
And what they do is they keep throwing these things out there to keep polluting your mind with terms, definitions, and explanations that are absolutely meaningless.
Right.
And when you really get engaged in this and you listen to what these people are saying, this will go off like alarm bells in your head.
Yeah.
And the media is complicit. Nobody pushed back on him and go, what's passive collusion?
Right.
You have these talking heads in media that are supposedly attorneys. There's no passive collusion. There's no collusion that's illegal. There's no statute that says collusion is illegal.
Right.
But we have passive collusion. So what these people do is they lie to you, they gaslight you,
right.
They deceive you with lying lips and lying tongues.
Right.
And your audience needs to step back, like I had to do, and realize, you know what, these people aren't smarter than me.
Right. Right. Right.
These people aren't smarter than me. God has blessed everybody with common sense.
Right.
Trust me, common sense will get you through. And when you hear something and you get that twinge deep down in your stomach, you need to follow that because it's a lie. You're
Right.
hearing a lie.
Well, you know, in your law enforcement days, go ahead. I'm sorry. You go ahead. I thought you were finished.
Well, I was going to say, Carl, this is what this country is spiraling down to. Is the media now is nothing but pure propaganda.
Yes.
Pure propaganda.
Yeah.
You can't trust a media report. They take one side of an issue and they run with it. And you take that birth certificate. Why would they black it out? It's because they knew how detrimentally damaging this thing was going to be.
Yes.
And they needed to cover the crime.
Yes. And let me just say to our audience, for anybody that's listening and any deep state operative that's out there getting ready to say, well, that's all been disproven, debunked. No, it hasn't. No, it's never come before a congressional hearing. It's never come before the DOJ. It's never come properly before the FBI with an investigation. It's never come before a court. No, it hasn't been proven anything. A bunch of lying and allegations and cover-ups and new terms invented and just disparaging the people that did the investigation. Yeah, that's happened. But it has never been proven to be a lie, or that, it's never been proven that the birth certificate is legitimate. So all that Mike Zullo and I are saying, and Sheriff Arpaio and millions of citizens that want this thing done, is prove us wrong. Take the 5-year criminal forensic investigation by the 4th largest sheriff's office in the nation. Investigate the heck out of it. Look at all of the evidence they have. Like Sheriff Arpaio said, I've got a warehouse of evidence, or a garage full is what he said. And then take the forensics, take the sworn affidavits, take the whistleblowers and the information and the reams and reams of evidence you can look at. Investigate that and then tell us that's all a bunch of junk, and the birth certificate is absolutely legitimate. You can't do it. Mike, that's why they won't do it. What they would rather do is cover themselves. They know they're all complicit. But I do think, based upon stuff that I know and you know, and we're not allowed to give any details, but based upon stuff we knew, I do think that what the president's been talking about, what Hannity been saying, what Kellyanne Conway's been saying about now it begins. Now we investigate the real criminals. And based upon some information I know about the important people that met with the important people in Washington, and I know that sounds so nebulous, but folks, that's all I can say. Of course I could give you names, but I'm not going to. I'm not at liberty to. But the important people that met with the important people, they know the details about this birth certificate. They know how deadly serious this is, and I'm not making any promises. I just know that they want to do something about it. And now that I'm hearing Trump say these things, and Hannity and Kellyanne Conway, who's got Trump's ear every day, that now it begins, now we're going to uncover the real crimes. Mike, I'm very hopeful, very prayerful that the birth certificate will eventually come to pass.
Well, I am too, Carl. And if, you take notice, who's the one person you haven't heard anything out of his mouth this whole entire time?
Yep.
It's one Barack Obama.
Yep. Yeah, he knows.
Right?
He knows where
he's smart.
Yeah, he knows we're closing in. He knows that it's all coming back to him and the CIA.
It's all going to. I am very fearful when this completely unfolds. We are going to find corruption in our government that we never thought was possible.
I agree.
And it's actually on display now.
Yep.
I mean, you could just see it.
And yeah,
and I just hope that this country stays strong through this.
Me too. Me too. And you and I will pray to that end. So, Mike, I pray that you and your family have a wonderful Resurrection Sunday and Passover week and this celebration of the risen Lord. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you. You're a great American. Thank you for your sacrifice. I'm sure you'll still have more to make, as I believe you'll be before Congress or the DOJ soon. That's what I'm praying for. And in the meantime, may the Lord bless you, Mike. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you. You too, Carl. Take care.
Okay. And folks, same to you. Thank you for tuning in today. And this is why you tune in. The stuff you've heard, the opinions, and the facts that you've heard. You just aren't going to hear them anywhere else. You're just not. And that's sad. But hey, we're a powerful station. We're a powerful voice and a powerful program.
Prime Minister Ariel Sharon has died, aged 8.
We are with one of Rabbi Kaduri's disciples.
הצלחה רבה, והצלחה רבה ומהירה, שתוך ביאת משיח צדקנו בקרוב ממש, ואז ישפיע על כל כדור